The door creaked softly as she pushed it open, letting in a thin beam of dull afternoon light. Her son's room had always felt small, warm, and alive, filled with echoes of laughter, tiny footsteps, and the innocent chaos only a young boy could create. Now it felt like a frozen world, untouched since the day he left. Every object inside seemed to be waiting, just like she was. The air smelled faintly of the powder he used after every bath, a scent she had once taken for granted but now clung to desperately. Dust hovered gently in the sunlight, dancing in slow, lazy movements, as if time inside this room had stopped. She stepped inside, her fingers trembling slightly. His school bag sat in the corner, still half-zipped, with a notebook sticking out, pages she had planned to check later that evening, pages scribbled with uneven handwriting and tiny drawings he used to proudly show her. His small shoes were placed neatly near the wall, though she knew he never kept them that way. She had arranged them like that herself the day he left, hoping he would come back and scatter them again. The silence inside the room was overwhelming, thick and heavy, pressing against her chest. She walked toward his bed and slowly sank down onto it. The springs made a soft sound, the same sound she heard every night when he used to jump on it, laughing, pretending it was a trampoline. She closed her eyes, imagining his little hands tugging at her arm, telling her one more story, asking for one more hug. The bedsheet was still slightly wrinkled, as if holding the memory of his small body curled up there. She reached out and touched his pillow, her fingertips brushing over the faded cartoon characters printed on it. Her throat tightened when she felt the softness beneath her hand. How many nights had she tucked him in here? How many times had she whispered goodnight, kissed his forehead, and turned off the light? She picked up his favorite shirt from under the pillow, a tiny blue one he insisted on wearing almost every week. It was worn at the collar from being pulled on too many times, a little stained with colors from the paints he loved. She lifted it to her face, breathing it in, searching for even the faintest trace of him. The more she tried to be strong, the more her heart began to ache. The tears she had been holding back slipped out quietly, falling onto the shirt, darkening the fabric. "Beta, cab wapas aoj," she whispered into the silence. Her voice cracked, barely audible, as if she was afraid the room itself might break. She wasn't asking the air. She wasn't talking to a memory. She was talking to her boy, hoping somehow her words could reach him. She hugged the shirt against her chest and swayed slightly, the way she used to rock him to sleep. Her tears soaked into the cloth, merging with the scent of her child. Every corner of the room held his innocence. Every inch of it reminded her of the life she once had, the laughter that once filled this space, the warmth that once filled her heart. She stayed there, holding on, as if time might rewind if she refused to let go. She didn't know when he would come back. She didn't know if he would. But she knew only one thing: she would keep waiting. Every day. Every night. In this room, in her heart, at the door, every evening, just before the sun disappeared behind the rooftops, she found herself drifting toward the front door the same way tired waves return to the shore. It had become a routine, one she never planned but couldn't stop herself from following. As the sky shifted from orange to a fading blue, she opened the door slowly, as if afraid the moment might shatter. The cool breeze brushed against her face, carrying the distant sounds of life, children laughing, neighbors chatting, a motorcycle passing by. Each sound pulled at her heart, reminding her of how her own home had grown quieter, heavier, almost hollow. She stepped outside and stood on the small porch, her hands clasped together, fingers twisting nervously around each other. Her eyes scanned the street out of habit, left to right, then right to left, searching for a familiar little figure running toward her, backpack bouncing, smile bright and mischievous. Instead, she saw strangers walking by, people carrying grocery bags, kids racing on bicycles, a couple arguing quietly as they crossed the road. Everyone seemed to be moving on with their lives, but she remained rooted in the same place, stuck in the same ache. The porch light flickered above her, an old bulb she kept meaning to replace. But part of her didn't want to. It had been flickering the evening he last left home, and somehow, in the soft glow of that imperfect light, she felt closer to him. The paint on the doorframe was chipped, the doormat slightly torn, yet she cared about none of it. All she cared about was the hope that any second now, she might see her boy turning the corner. Sometimes she imagined hearing his footsteps, the rapid little patter that always made her smile. Sometimes she imagined hearing him call out, "Mama," the way he used to whenever he spotted her from a distance. Each time, her heart would leap, only to fall painfully when she realized it was only the wind, only a sound from the neighbor's house, only her mind trying to comfort her aching heart. She kept the door slightly open behind her, a habit she had developed without thinking. She wanted him to know, no matter when he came back, the door would never truly be closed to him. It was her silent message to him, "Come home whenever you can. I am here. I am waiting." Her eyes grew tired, but she refused to blink for long, afraid she might miss the moment he returned. The cool evening air brushed against her arms, raising goosebumps, but she didn't move inside. She pressed her hand against her chest, feeling the slow, heavy thud of her heartbeat, each beat calling his name in a rhythm only a mother could understand. "Main ubibi tumhara in teaser kar rahi hoon," she whispered into the dim street, her voice trembling. "Please come home." Her words carried into the silence, fragile but full of hope. She stayed there until the sky turned dark and the streetlights buzzed awake. And even when she finally stepped back inside, she left the door open just a little, still waiting, still hoping, still believing her boy would come back home. She sat near the window long after the world outside had gone quiet, the faint glow of a streetlight filtering through the dusty curtains. The house was nearly dark, but she didn't reach for a switch. Darkness felt gentler, easier to sit with than the harsh truth light would reveal. On her lap lay a small framed photograph, one she had touched so many times that the edges had worn smooth. Her boy's face smiled up at her from behind the glass, eyes full of innocence and joy, frozen in a moment that felt like a lifetime ago. She traced a finger over his cheek in the picture, as if she could somehow feel his warmth. The glass was cold, painfully cold, but she didn't pull her hand away. Memories rose inside her like waves, his laughter echoing through the halls, the way he used to tug at her dupatta when he wanted attention, how he wrapped his tiny arms around her neck with complete trust. Those memories hurt now, but she held on to them because they were all she had left to hold. The room felt unbearably still. Outside, a dog barked somewhere in the distance, then everything fell silent again. The kind of silence that makes your heart feel louder, your breathing heavier, your loneliness deeper. She swallowed hard, pressing the photo closer to her chest. His smile, bright, carefree, made her eyes burn. How could a picture feel so alive yet remind her so painfully of his absence? A tear slipped down her cheek, followed by another. She didn't bother to wipe them away. Her shoulders shook as she tried to hold in the sob that trembled in her throat. She didn't want to cry, didn't want to fall apart again, but the weight of missing him pressed too heavily on her heart. She breathed in shakily, her voice barely a whisper as she spoke to the boy who wasn't there. "Mary John, Jahan Biho, Ekbar Mummy Kupas Aajo," she said, her voice breaking mid-sentence. The words hung in the air, fragile and trembling, like they were afraid to shatter. She looked at his picture again, seeing not just his face but the life they used to share, the little routines, the hugs, the silly jokes, the bedtime stories. All of it felt so close yet impossibly far. She remembered the way he used to sit beside her at this very window, pointing at passing cars, asking endless questions only a child's mind could create. She remembered how small his hand felt when it wrapped around her fingers. That memory made her chest tighten so painfully she had to place a hand over her heart. Her tears dripped onto the frame, forming tiny dark spots before rolling off. She wiped the glass gently with the edge of her sleeve, unwilling to let anything cloud his face, not even her own sorrow. She lifted the photo again, pressing a soft kiss to it like she had done every night since he left. The clock ticked in the background, steady and unbothered, as though time didn't care about her grief. She closed her eyes and held the photo tightly, rocking slightly in her seat, comforting herself the way she once comforted him. Her heart whispered the same prayer it whispered every night: please be safe. Please come back. Please don't forget me. She stayed there beside the window, lost between hope and memory. Though she couldn't see him, couldn't hear him, she refused to let go of the belief that one day he would return and she would finally feel his little arms around her again. Until that day, she would keep waiting, silently, faithfully, lovingly, with his picture in her hands and his name in her heart.